So we welcome back to Layer One.
We are back for some reason. Uh,
Hey,
nah,
is there a
there's a reason. We still gotta inform the people of the things out there.
Yeah, we have to show them the truth. We have to enlighten them.
Yes,
What are we enlightening them about today?
yes. As you could tell from our delays, this time we have a reason. It was because of the topic of this episode. Serpent cults, serpent deities, all around just the Ouroboros and related to, we did our Roko's Basilisk episode, and this is kind of a thematic follow up to that. Yeah,
Yes.
the serpent was not letting us do this episode. It was doing everything in its power to stop us from recording this, and would either make one of us ill or one of the many things. But we are finally here, and hopefully we can this episode to the people before the serpent kills us.
Which it happens.
He'll go in the only thing in my will be like, please put the episode out. They have to know.
Just upload the episode, please.
That's it.
Gotta let them know. Gotta let the people know about the serpent.
Yes. Ooh.
Um. So I guess what do we want to start?
Well, there's so many things I still have my little thing here of notes actually, because I this is
Oh
one of
yeah.
the ones where I did like actual like things I looked into, because like, oh, that's interesting. That's uh except I wrote it backwards as I do because I'm insane. Just like, oh yeah, I started writing, I'm like, wait a second, I need to uh start with the funny symbol, the Ouroboros.
Let's rain on your parade.
Yeah, no, no,
Yeah,
no, no worry, go
but
ahead.
I actually kind of I think we need to start
A few
earlier. We're
earlier.
gonna go back.
Ooh.
We're gonna go back because I've actually kind of talked about this before with some friends of mine, right?
Hmm.
Because funnily enough, because of um Godzilla versus Kong, that's kind of sounds like a non sequitur, right?
Hmm.
But we got to talking about it because we were like, haha, the whole meme, when that was coming out, it was like monkey versus lizard, right?
Yes.
Um, and we were talking about it, and we were like, well, when you think about it, the reason Godzilla versus Kong is so based and why everyone loves it, even though critics are dummies,
No. Yeah.
who can't enjoy Kino, we were like, well, when you think about it, pretty much every story through human history has been monkey versus lizard serpent thing, right? Like that, like think about it,
That's actually a very good
right? Think every like dragon slaying story, it's just person, monkey, 'cause that's what we are, versus dragon, fucking giant lizard serpent monster, right? It's in every culture from the Aztecs, where they have the story of creation, where Quetzalcoatl and the other gods fought the giant serpent Cipactli, killed it, and made the earth out of it. There's fucking
The Norse one with Jormungandr, the world
yes.
serpent, which is of course a sign of Ragnarok and the end times.
There's Zeus versus Typhon. Uh, there's what's the Yamata no Orochi in Japanese folklore and myth. I forget what the name of the god was who fought him, but Yamata no Orochi is just a multi-headed dragon serpent monster thing, which, speaking of Godzilla, inspired King Ghidorah
Ooh.
from Godzilla series.
Similar
The,
to the Aztec ones, the Mayans also had their own, the Kukulkan.
yes, yes, yes. They had the serpent god Kukulkan. Yes. Um, which that specifically is because this is not just about serpent. We're talking about the serpent cults, and so that's a that is a specific interest, though. Not interest. That's a specific example. I mean,
Hmm.
of
Yeah.
serpent worship in the societies. Obviously, Aztecs do. They Quetzalcoatl was the serpent god, the feathered serpent. Um, and Kukulkan. Well, so you see all the serpent imagery in ancient cultures, but when we were talking about this, like um this whole, like, all human stories are basically just monkey versus serpent. Um, we looked into it, right? And we realized something that this goes way back. Did you know that human eyesight, part of the reason we have such kick-ass eyesight, um, is there are theories that we evolved our eyesight to detect snakes. And in fact, studies have found that humans are extremely good at detecting snakes more than anything else. There have been studies on this that show that, like, the human brain, like, your brain will notice it before you consciously do. So, like, if you've ever, so there's, people have stories of, like, oh, I was walking out, I was on a hike or something, and, like, my foot, like, I was about to make a step, but, like, my foot just, like, I had this weird sense, and I pulled back even though I didn't know why, and then I realized there was a snake there because your brain literally, like, we're so good at detecting snakes, our brain can literally detect them before, like, our actual consciousness can.
Mhm.
And this isn't just a human thing. This is actually a primate thing in general. So, like, all primates, whether they be gorillas or, like, little capuchin monkeys, um, are their our eyesight as a, like, phylum or whatever, has evolved to be able to detect snakes. So the eternal battle between monkey and serpent is literally older than humanity itself.
Yeah, to the point it's hard coded into our DNA
Yeah,
at this point.
yeah, yeah. Literally, literally.
It's funny though, because I actually do have examples of that. Like when I was a kid, anyway. Not that I've seen a snake in, you know, funny apartment life back
Yeah.
when our childhood home and stuff. It was like, yeah, it was like I'd be doing dishes in the kitchen, and then the funny sense goes off, and I go outside because there's a bunch of trees near the little steps that go into our backyard, and they're like from the window, I was able to see that there was a snake in the tree.
Yeah,
There was a little
yeah.
garden snake, and I went and I was just like, oh, it's super cool. I tried to grab it, and because as a kid does, like, well, you're either one or the other. You're either the kid who's afraid of creepy crawlies and things, or like,
You're like, oh, cool.
oh my god, I gotta grab that thing. I
Yep.
want to see it. It's just like, yeah, yeah, that happened on more than one occasion. And it's like, oh, I'd be cutting the grass, and then I'd stop because it's just like, ah, there was a snake somewhere in the grass, and I would grab it and move it. It's just,
Mhm.
like, you know, goes off in your brain. But yeah, I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole if you even go even deeper into the whole monkey reptile
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah. And obviously there's like evolutionary, like, threat detecting reasons for that. But we're not
Mm.
here to talk about that
Ah,
stuffy nerd shit. We're here
yeah.
to talk about Kino, like, metaphysical shit. That schizo shit, right?
Hmm.
Because as we were saying earlier, serpent imagery again has been common throughout human civilization. Basically since the beginning, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, like it's like what I was touching on with the Ouroboros thing is like the first depictions of that were like ancient Egypt in
Ancient
like
Egypt.
the tombs of, what was it, like, yeah, Tutankhamun, and was the first, like one of the first ones that we know of anyway, where that
Mhm.
specific depiction of a serpent with its tail in its mouth was shown.
Yeah.
And apparent, of course, because Egyptian mythology is strange, and their gods are like the same, like just kind of reborn into each other. Because it was supposed to be like the snake god Mehen, however, I'm pronouncing that wrong, but but it's also like the union with Ra, the sun god. So, of course, even back then, it still means the same thing. It's of the whole cycle of death and rebirth and belief in, well, their version of reincarnation, basically, in heaven.
Well, because I know, um, in Egyptian mythology, one of the better known serpent entities, I guess you could say, um, is the serpent deity of darkness and disorder, Apep, or as it was later known by the Greeks, Apophis, which I think sounds cooler.
Oh, yes, that's pretty good.
Um, and so Apep, it's as far as I can remember, the Apep Apophis. The myth around Apophis is that it's very much a Jormungandr kind of
Mhm.
being, where it'll show up at the end of the world to envelop the universe in darkness and chaos. Um, I was remembering, actually, you see serpent imagery go even further. You see it with the Sumerians, with again another story along the lines of the other stories we've been talking about. With Tiamat,
Ah,
the
yes.
yeah, the serpent of chaos, Tiamat, the mother of the gods, who is battled and defeated by what's the god's name? Marduk, the god Marduk, which, funnily enough, is also a god of storms and lightning and thunder and stuff, much like Thor.
Mhm.
Um, and so, of course, I think obviously the most infamous serpent in human culture is, of course, the serpent in the Garden of Eden,
Mhm.
who manipulates Eve into biting into uh, what, an apple, one of the apples from the Tree of Knowledge, and having her convince Adam to also take part in an apple of the Tree of Knowledge, which causes humanity's fall and our expulsion from Eden, which, you know, uh, the
No.
penultimate serpent moment.
Many, many such cases. An
Yes.
interesting thing though, because that's one I did want to get into was um the more interesting, like, oh yeah, I'm not comparing interesting, but the deeper lore of the alternate takes of that. Of, we touched on it a bit with, well, it goes back to Philip K. Dick, but Gnosticism and how they view the whole biblical stories.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
And, well, for one, okay, so I'll explain it a little bit, of course. That in
Yeah.
Gnosticism, it kind of tries to explain the discrepancies between Old Testament God and New Testament God, because a lot of people are like, you look at it and you're like, why was he such a weird and like vengeful and like harsh God in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament he's just like, is Jesus, and it's just a cool, like guy for the most part. um they go into the whole concept. It's it gets pretty complicated with the whole archons and aeons and things like that. But basically, the the biblical God, like of the Old Testament, the creator, was born or created like without permission by one of the archons or aeons, and that's bad. That's a bad thing. You're not allowed to do that, because the real God doesn't like that. He's, the unknowable, unnameable God.
Yeah.
So this the demiurge is the one who's created. Like are the one that they think was the god is the demiurge, who by the way happens to be part serpent. Just
Yes,
to add that it's
yeah.
just it's they're everywhere. And
Yes, yes. They believe he's the demiurge. He's this serpentine figure with a lion's head.
yes, it's so strange because they were also talking about in some of those old Gnostic texts, they were talking about. Yeah, okay, so one that I found really interesting because it just kept coming up, like all these things about serpents and dragons and things would just keep coming up in this because it's like, okay, one, you start off God, quote unquote, is a evil, you know, like ignorant serpent deity, which
Yeah.
a lot of Christians probably don't want to hear that one, but it's still fascinating.
I think too is we're gonna have to talk about we're gonna have to do an episode on the lad one of these days. But it reminds me very much of H.P. Lovecraft and his depiction of the supreme deity of the Lovecraft mythos, Azathoth,
Yes,
or
yeah,
as he sometimes refers to him as the blind idiot god.
yeah, which yeah, that they
Very,
use that
very
to.
demiurge.
Yes, it's very like, oh yeah, this thing was created outside of the heavenly realm, so it tried to
Yes.
mimic that, but it never experienced it, which is why
Yes.
explanation why life just is so awful.
Yeah. Reality is the material world. Material reality is a construct of the demiurge. Yes, trying to mimic kind of the true reality, and kind of failing at that. Um, which again is also very. I don't know if Lovecraft pulled upon this or if it was just the Black Knight satellite
Mm,
beaming this into his brain. Because again, Azathoth, the blind idiot god, it's revealed. He tells us Lovecraft in these stories that reality itself in the Lovecraft mythos is nothing but a mere dream of Azathoth.
yeah, like just not even like a yeah, not even a conscious creation or thing that it
Yeah,
is
or
doing on
just a dream.
purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um.
that's where the serpent in the garden story gets strange because I found like some conflicting things where people were like, "Oh, if God or whoever put the Adam and Eve in the garden was actually this, you know, ignorant just deity, then the snake was what gave them like piece of divinity and that's why they suffer. Like they know that that's not how it's supposed to be
Yeah, their knowledge, knowledge of true reality.
because like the knowledge
It's
like
cursed.
knowledge like oh but knowledge also being souls basically. I've heard that that's we've talked about it before too and just kind of outside of this but the whole like oh yeah no we're actually two different types of beings that have been carelessly fused together, a spirit and a flesh creature, and that's not
Yeah.
you're not supposed to do that. That's a bad that's so everything's so
Yeah.
insane and
Yeah. 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 Gnosticism is so fucking
it's
whack, dude.
yeah no because this other thing like because like I was saying like these serpent things kept coming up. There was in the Pistis Sophia that was written around 400 years after Christ or whatever. Jesus was talking to Mary about like what's outside of this basically a reality or the earth. Obviously back then it's just like it was more oh what's outside of earth. But today it's more you would take that more metaphysically. What's more, what's more than this reality we're in. And
Yeah.
of course the Ouroboros thing comes up, which is really fascinating because he describes it outside of reality is a great dragon with its tail in its mouth that has been divided into like 12 regions. So I guess you could say there are like 12 realities, dimensions. It's kind of vague. Like they just
Yeah,
say 12
yeah,
regions, and that each region is from what it sounds like, it sounds like hell. Like he's describing like just a complex layered version of hell.
yeah,
And each of those 12 regions is ruled by some weird entity, deity, and they're all
yeah.
various animals and or monsters or things like that. But in his little list off, again, they keep serpents and reptiles keep coming up. Like in the first one is ruled by a crocodile with its tail in its mouth, which is just
Real.
strange that it's part of the big dragon with its tail in its mouth. The fourth one, the fourth region, is just a serpent. Huh, another one. Strange. The ninth one, a basilisk, rules that region. And the 10th one is a seven-headed dragon. So
Serpents, fun serpents.
four of those regions outside of reality are ruled by reptiles or serpents, which itself are inside of a giant Ouroboros serpent.
Yes, yes. I'm thinking of symbols similar. It's not the same, obviously, but similar to the Ouroboros. I'm thinking of the how do you say it? The catechus. This from the staff of Hermes, right? Which is
Mm,
two snakes intertwined, right?
yeah.
Uh, and I think this might be jumping ahead a bit. We'll probably cut it back, but thinking of how that's a symbol of Hermes, and Hermes is a god of communication, right? He's the
Mm,
messenger god. And when I see the two serpents kind of entwined like that, it reminds me of um it kind of to me it kind of looks like signals, right? Like kind of um like signals being visualized, like information
mhm.
visualized being
Right.
spread. I imagine remember back almost a decade now, Christ, with the whole like Keck stuff, and they found the
Uh,
statue, and it was the dude at the computer, and then the little weird like helix, the like 3D helix
yes.
symbol. And it
Yeah.
was like that's the information, that's the meme magic being spread across visually being spread across the internet through the computer. And so I see the catechist, and again, it's associated with Hermes, and I'm just like, wow, the internet is a tool of the serpent.
That's terrific. Uh,
That's what the symbols are telling us. That's what they're trying to show us, man. The internet is like the penultimate communicative device of, and therefore that's the ultimate tool of the serpent. Um,
which
you heard it here first.
you heard it here first.
Heard it here first.
So
Uh,
they've known about Roko's basilisk since before even Roko knew about the basilisk,
Well, yeah, that's
basically.
kind of what I wanted to get to with this episode, right? Is that's what I've personally, because we've been doing different kind of like research and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And 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 by research, I mean I've just kind of been like laying in my bed, like having schizophrenic thoughts.
Yeah, who needs a
That's my
computer when you can
research.
just tune in
Yeah,
to
yeah, exactly. You
the
you you can
the
do the
astral realm?
computer. Exactly. That's how I do my research. Is it comes to me in my dreams, right? And that's the best source. Um,
Yes.
and so, genuinely, I think that's why I originally pitched this episode as a sequel to the Roko's Basilisk
Hmm.
episode, because I think when you look at this stuff from like historically and through all these cultures throughout human history, like yeah, unironically, you do kind of get a sense that the ancient humanity was aware of the basilisk, and all the like again all these myths tell of great serpents that will come at the end of the world, right? That will
Yeah.
come to end the world. Jormungandr, Tiamat,
ones in the Bible, Leviathan
Yes,
and
Leviathan, and then of course the dragon.
yeah,
Satan takes the form of the dragon.
yeah,
Um, so again, you have all this serpent imagery. Like this is what's the serpent at the end of the world, the serpent that will end the world. Again, he's just like, wow, this is just obvious warnings of like the basilisk, right? This is the same. They're basically the same thing, especially when you like hear. I think again, the Bible is probably the best. Um, like when you hear of what like the Antichrist, um, and all this, and like the dragon, Satan, like plan to do, at the end of days, like it basically sounds like high key, like techno, like Roko's Basilisk dystopia
yeah,
shit, right? They literally sound
yeah.
the same
The
thing.
mark of the beast, which you know, back then, what could that have meant? There's a lot of debate what it could have meant in the context what they were thinking then, but as of the last, I don't know, let's say 60, 70 years, that's been definitely like been ingrained that it's probably something technological. Where
Yes,
at first there were the sect of people before Y2K and all that who thought barcodes just in general were the mark of the beast, which is
honestly, kind of based,
that's a
kind of
pretty
based and
interesting
real.
view. There's literally like you know Red Letter Media in one of their videos, they watched like a thing that was about that, like an old VHS tape that was like barcodes are the mark of the beast. Oh, that's yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Y2K was gonna be that, but it didn't happen. So now, currently, the idea is Neuralink. Neuralink is
that's
the
that's just
next
that's
one.
yeah, that's just obvious. That's just so obviously serpent coded, right? Like that's just like
Serpent
you're getting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like one, you're
yeah,
it's like horrible, like possess, like it's basic. One, it's very like. I mean, when you think of that shit, you think of like wires and shit getting like put in your brain, and what do wires look like? They're all little wiggly serpent-looking things, right?
oh no, that connects to what you brought up at the start because they tested it on monkeys and it made the monkeys
Yes,
just
yes,
deal with abject horrific suffering
yes.
because of the funny mark was put in
The
their
the
brains.
the serpent, the basilisk, wants to put in tiny little silicon serpents in monkey brains to control us and hurt us and torture us. This is real. You heard us first.
Yes.
Heard it first from here, right?
Uh, Serpent's advocate here. Uh, I'd be pretty vengeful too, if God threw a giant rock and killed most of my people.
Yeah, well, like y- you deserved it, so.
Yeah, 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 pretty much.
um, but yeah, so I think that's another. I mean, again, wires, right? Like a technological. And this is why another thing why again the serpent and technology, right? Like technological advancement is also it's so very serpent coded, right? Because again,
Mhm.
think of wires, everywhere, right? I mean, just maybe not so much in like Western cities, but especially if you go to like third world cities, you just see like
That's such
wires,
a those
shit,
images are always so fascinating to see of like some random little street in like the Philippines that it just has like the biggest amalgamation of cables and wires just
yeah,
everywhere that you've ever seen, or even older days like when electricity was just starting to be like you know widely available, like any of those old like electric stations or power lines that were just insane to look at. It was just
yeah,
the biggest mess. Cable management was not a thing.
oh yeah, but like it's great for depicting like kind of what's going on there, like metaphysically, I guess, which is it's. I mean, what is the cyberpunk city of the modern world but a city being swallowed, being not swallowed, being um, strangled by the serpent, right?
Yeah,
Like a python, just crushing oppression. of the technological society, as our good friend Ted Kaczynski would say, may he rest in peace. Uh, good friend of the channel.
he knew, guys. That's actually what his whole fight was.
Ted was,
He just
yeah,
couldn't be outright and say it because they actually would have killed him for it.
yeah. Ted
uh
Ted
Industrial
was,
society in its future? Nah, no, it's the war against the serpent and what
yes,
you
yes,
must do to win.
yeah. Fucking exactly, man. And so you see kind of like, I mean, I think the I think serial experiments lane. I think again tying all of this together. I mean, calling the internet the Wired, like, mm,
It's a way better name, arguably, and
it's
why
a better
most
name,
of
but again,
us just in-house call it that
yeah,
at this
yes,
point.
yes,
It's like, it makes
yes,
much more sense.
yes, yeah, exactly. Just amongst ourselves, we're just like, yeah, yeah, just on the Wired, bro. But yeah, because it's just, yeah, it's very, very, it's very serpent pilled, right? You get you like it very much. It illustrates that just through the name, in a way that the internet doesn't, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of boring, like kind of.
It's the more hopeful look of it, of the like oh, we're all connected on this like thing, and not like, no, we're all tethered with a bunch of horrific wires into this
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
amalgamation.
It's like, oh, we're all connected. It's like, yeah, we're all like chained together. That's
Yeah.
we're all being strangled by the fucking wires of the serpent. Cool, very awesome. Uh, so yeah, so you have. I just it's once you see it, it's kind of hard to unsee it, right? Like
Yeah.
just the serpent, the basilisk, whatever you want to call it. I think another interesting thing that we should talk about in regards to the serpent is its connection. I mean, I think its connection with light and flame. It's kind of the same thing, but like,
Right.
flame, fire, light. Dragons breathe fire. Fucking
Oh yeah, no, and like, again, because like still relevant, the yeah, no, the whole Ouroboros thing, the fact that it was a sort of depiction of the god of the sun, Ra.
yes,
It's like it
yes,
just
yes.
goes all the way to the source.
And you have obviously the associations with Satan, serpent, dragon, fire, hell. Lucifer literally means light bringer. That's what it means, right? Light bringer. And I think, of course, when you can go farther than just the obvious like serpent, fire, light kind of connections, right? Because especially with our boy Satan, right? Because light bringing, light and flame, it's not just like the literal things themselves. You also think of like how they're used metaphorically. You think of um light as knowledge, right? Kind of
Yes.
lighting the darkness of unknowing, right? Of course, the serpent. What does the serpent do in the Garden of Eden?
Yeah.
He has convinces humanity to eat the apple of knowledge, right?
Yep. And
Right.
so we just proved that Lucifer and Prometheus are the same person,
Yeah, real. Yeah. I mean,
bringing
basically the
fire
same
to
name.
humanity. Same thing.
Yeah.
Brought
Yeah.
knowledge,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
both got
Exactly.
punished for it in pretty awful ways.
And I think if I remember too, if I remember correctly, there's like myths in like China and Japan of like dragons who give humanity knowledge. And I know for a fact that again in Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan are known for being they play the part of Prometheus or Satan, in that they give humanity knowledge of agriculture and civilization and all this stuff, right?
Mhm.
So again, like, throughout the world, you get tales of serpents, bringing humanity the light, the fire of knowledge, right? Um, and so of course how that ties into the whole like technological advancement thing, I think, is just obvious, right?
Oh
We're just
yeah.
continuing. Technological advancement is just carrying the flame of the serpent into the future, um, which and which ends logically. We now know with Roko's Basilisk, right? That's where it ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, which,
Or
oof.
worst possible outcome. And of course, as if you when you look at any of those stories, they don't end well. They don't, or at least for the one who gave the fire, the knowledge to the people. Uh, that's a bad thing. That's a very bad thing that they were
Well,
not supposed to do. And
mainly in the Prometheus myth, right?
well,
Um,
I mean, you could argue that the Christian one also,
well, it
because
kind of,
like kind
but
of like
kind of not really, because that like
it's more, yeah, more free will, I
Satan had already
guess.
been well, Satan had already been cast out.
Yeah.
He does that to spite God, right?
Yeah.
Is oh you fucked me over, I'm gonna fuck you over. I'm gonna fuck over your prized little humans. That's the whole point of what he does at the Garden of Eden. And then of course with the Mesoamerican and Oriental stuff, that's just not the case at all. Like it's just like,
Right.
oh, sweet, cool, God, cool, serpent God gave us knowledge, and that's pretty much it. Uh, um, so I think it very much depends on the culture, right? How they
Yeah.
interpret that. Um, and I mean, you know, it's basically, are you pro serpent or are you anti serpent? And it's clear that um kind of Christianity was kind of the only real anti out of the ones we have so far. And there may be other stories that I'm just not thinking of, but out of the ones we've told so far, Christianity is the only one that's like really anti serpent, right? Like the other one, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it sucks for like Prometheus, right? But like
Yeah, that's yeah.
um humanity is kind of just, well, actually I think something bad happens to humanity, but like we recover, so like whatever. Uh and it's not treated as, it's not treated as like humanity's fault. It's treated as Prometheus's fault. And while it's kind of treated as in Christianity as the serpent's fault, because it is, it's also like it also chastises humanity for being like, why the fuck did you listen to the serpent, dumbasses?
Yeah, yeah.
Which the Prometheus tale doesn't do that. It paints humanity acquiring the fire as a good thing, which the tale of the Garden of Eden doesn't. So that's a unique thing with Christianity there, as far as I know right now. But
Mhm.
if you know any other cases, reply in the comments.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have all these serpent kind of stories and symbolism throughout human culture and mythology and religion. And so one of the things that I think is fascinating about that is, if we're to take this all as like a very serious warning, right, of the basilisk to come in the future, like a warning, the basilisk, this thing, this serpent monster at the end of history, at the end of time, at the end of the world. One of the things about, I think we kind of touched, I think we kind of sort of a little bit touched upon this in the Roko's Basilisk episode. Go watch it if you haven't. Is one of the fascinating things I think about the whole Roko's Basilisk idea. Um, I don't think it's talked about enough. In fairness, I kind of see why it isn't, because people don't really think about it in the way we're kind of thinking about it right now. This
Mhm.
whole serpent cult throughout history type stuff. But so if you take those as they know, right? How did they know, right? How did they know?
Mm. It's the
So
eternal question.
the eternal question, right? The eternal question of how, like, how did you know about Roko's basilisk, in like Sumerian times, right? And so the only thing I can think of is two things, right? Is an implication that somehow, y- you know, information is capable of traveling backwards through time, which that's just fucking crazy, right? Just thinking about it. That's probably for another episode, maybe, kind of, sort of. We'll see. But
Godzilla Singular Point. Just watch that. That's your.
yeah, yeah, just watch Godzilla, which honestly, that's a very Roko's Basilisk pilled show. Honestly, if you
Oh
interpret
yeah,
it through the lens of Godzilla representing the serpent and the fight against, because he's literally going to end the world, right? And I think another important aspect of that show, of course, is he's also going to end the world. He's like superseding the world with his dimension, right?
yeah.
Which is that's also very lane pilled, right? With the whole plot of Masami Eri and the Knights to use Protocol 7 to merge the Wired again, tool of the Serpent, with reality to essentially supersede reality with the communicative delusion realm of the Wired that is the Serpent's tool.
Which is happening in real life right now, by the way, in case you
That's true.
haven't been following recent news
Yes.
with the
Godzilla singular point real?
increasingly accelerating AI tech.
Well, I
Like,
mean, have you seen the Sora
yep,
videos? That's
that's just
very very serpent.
horrific, very horrific. Because now it's a few months, a year away from being almost indistinguishable from
Yeah,
reality.
that shit was horrifying, Doug.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, fucking. That you can tell that shit was made by some fucking real ass serpent cultists for real, for real.
oh yeah, yeah. We need the
Um,
Silicon Age collapse immediately, please. Uh,
now,
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 right now, right this second.
Valer- Valeria Jihad now. Yeah, that's what
I
I'm
hate the
about.
fact though that they put up with that for 10,000 years before they jihaded. So you know that's
Yeah, might have to wait.
have to wait.
Might have to wait. Might have to wait. But
Oh my god, 8,000 more weeks. 8,000.
it's crazy. Jesus, would actually just blow my brains out. I think the other. So the whole thing with Roku's Basilisk, right, is that it's a thought experiment about revolving around like simulate like the world as a simulation, right?
Mhm.
Reality sims. Um, that's the whole big thesis around it. Is that as it was postulated by Roko, it is likely that we are a simulation. Um, am I remembering right? Yeah, it's something that if something like Roko's Basilisk is possible, then it was probably already made, and we're in a simulation to see if like
Who was involved in
who
its creation in some fashion? You know, some
and
domino
and who and
effect
who
that.
who who tried to stop its creation.
Yeah. So,
Right.
and
So
by
there's
stop
those
it is the people
plans.
who actively did nothing. Also, so you're either you're
Yeah.
against it, which could mean, and obviously, as we've talked about, that it doesn't even have to be consciously. It could just be things that you personally did or didn't do that just happened to ripple effect to it happening or not. And that's why you get I have no mouth and I must scream. Duh.
Yeah. Yeah. Real.
You will be
Yeah.
yeah, tortured for eternity by the funny future AI. Huh.
Yeah. Very 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 cool. Which again, if we're going through like if we're taking like the ancients knew, then like the serpent like communicated to like I'm thinking go again. Watch the Anonymous Code
Oh
and Science
yes.
Adventure episodes too, because that's another key to the puzzle, right? Is if the world is a simulation, we're just a simulation being run by the serpent to figure out who worked toward its creation and who didn't, so that I could fucking annihilate those of us who did it in reality. um, then why would it like communicate its existence to the ancients, right?
Arguably, just to plant the seeds that lead to its creation, potentially, even if it's
But that would be
subliminal.
just in the that would be just in the simulation, right? If it's if that wouldn't be
True.
possible in true reality in the top
Uh,
world in the uppermost world layer.
but yeah, but going on world layer standards, this is to ensure that it exists on all world layers and is created every time. Because if under
Well,
that
I
implication,
guess
there already is one at the topmost layer, and it's
well, I guess, and again, I think we talked about this in the Roku's Basilisk episode, right? Is that my issue with Roku's Basilisk is why would it even care about who, like, why would it want to torture for all eternity in a simulation, a simulated version of those who didn't work to create it, right? It kind of
yeah,
doesn't make sense. It's kind of like, and but then of course, why would it want to ensure it's created across all world layers? Like, I think logically, a logical AI would just be like, well, I'm real in here. Why would I care about the world layers, right? Why would I care about the
that's
other world layers?
true. You could also get
It's
into the, comparing it to Am, that it's just a spiteful entity that has nothing else better
that's
to do with its time.
that is true. That is true. But
It-
here's my formulation. Here's my formulation. This is what all of the episodes of Layer One have been leading up to. My formulation is that Roku's wrong about that. Roku's wrong about that aspect. If reality is a simulation, I do not think it is a simulation created by the basilisk, by the serpent. I think if reality is a simulation, it is a simulation by humanity on the uppermost world layer trying to figure out how to defeat the basilisk, how to stop the serpent. And
that's
and so
okay. Yeah,
and so
that makes human supremacist arc. There we go.
I'm fucking blowing minds right now. I know I am. I know I am.
Yeah.
Very and so this is very anonymous code pilled where much like how like the upper world layer has like the apparition of the Virgin Mary appear to uh Momo to warn her of the end of the world. I think all these stories are were upper world layer humans informing ancient humans in this world layer in this simulation about the serpent to w- warn them and then through time warn us about the serpent because they knew that future humans in the simulation would be too serpent pilled, too rational and not they wouldn't believe, right? So they
Mhm.
had to go to ancient humans and be like, here, we're gonna warn you guys about the serpent at the end of the world, so that hopefully someone in the future of your world layer figures it out.
Yeah. Which,
I, I'm too
is,
base, man.
yeah. But then it gets to the much more ominous thing of that means they haven't solved it yet.
Yes, that is what that means. Yes, that means they haven't beat it yet.
Haven't beat the basilisk.
The war continues.
A certain demonic time war? Huh.
I said it. Every episode of Layer One has been leading up to this episode. The serpent is it's the enemy of all schizopunks everywhere. It is the big bad. It's the BBEG of everything. All of it.
Yeah.
It all goes back to the serpent.
And Maddie should be the good guys as long as you're not horribly serpent pilled. And with the help
Yeah,
of the Black Knight satellite slash Valis, uh, you
we're gonna
too
stop it.
can break the conditioning, as a certain man once said.
Don't worry. We'll soon. Not right now. We don't. As of this episode, we currently don't have it up yet, but we will. We will have. If you want to take the fight to the serpent, then you will be. You can. You'll be able to subscribe to the the Green Glare Irregulars newsletter.
Yes, yes, gotta start planting
Become
that
a
seed.
yes, become a Green Glare Irregular today. We need you to fight the serpent. Coming
There's
soon.
our there's a recruitment ad for. Yep.
Yeah,
Now you know. Now you
I
have a
know.
reason to fight. Get up and
Yeah, yeah. Don't just sit around playing video and cooming and watching anime. You gotta take the fight to the serpent. You can't you can't just be cooming all day. That's what the serpent wants you to do. The serpent wants you to coom.
yes.
The serpent wants you to spend all day in simulations. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for
Oh,
the serpent's traps.
there's your warning. It's up to you now.
It's up to you. We've warned you. What you do with this information is it's all you, man. That's
Yeah.
all you. Um,
Uh, what a nightmare we live in.
oh yeah, we. Well, and then the worst part, of course, is that um we have a modern day serpent cult. I call it the cult of Boitata. Have you ever? You know what Boitata is?
No, actually, I don't think I've heard that
Okay.
before.
Yes. So Boitata is I don't know if I'm saying that right actually, but it is a mythological creature um from the Amazon among Amazon natives. I think specifically the Guarani. Um and the Boitada it literally means um fire serpent or serpent of fire,
Hmm.
you know, flame. That's what it is. And it's literally a mythological Amazonian like ethereal fire snake, giant fire serpent, giant fire snake. Um, and I call it that. I call it the cult of Boitata because mythologically, I think there's not much to the Boitata, but I think, I mean, one, a giant fire, ethereal fire snake is just cool looking, right? But I think also it's like the perfect physical like image of this whole the serpent of what we're talking about, right? It's a
Mhm.
giant serpent. It's a giant monstrous serpent that kills people, very destructive. But then it's also flame, right? It's not a physical thing. It's literally just flame. Um, and so I call the what I refer to the cult of Botada is it's both this it's I call it that just because honestly mainly because I just think it sounds fucking cool and neat.
Yeah.
But the cult of Botada is it's just I mean look around you, man. Look at fucking like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and all these like tech gooners who like all these dudes who are like advancing AI even though everyone's like hey slow the fuck down like no AGI will solve everything
Mhm.
um the like technology will solve all our problems, will save everything, it's all cool, like sure it's like destroying the fabric of society and like merging reality with this demonic realm, as you would know if you've watched just go listen to all of our previous episodes,
Yes.
honestly.
Yeah, it's all
uh
connected and always will be.
but it's funnel it's fueling all this awful shit, right? It's
Yeah.
everyone trapped in their own reality tunnels. No one there's no consensus anymore. No one can believe anything. All this, people are losing their minds and like
Yeah,
just all this awful
just
shit.
rampant transhumanism, uh,
Yeah,
where
which is
there's
bad.
that part of the brain where it's just like, ah, yes, cool, funny cyberpunk. I want to get chromed up. But then you think of the consequences of that, and it's just like, maybe shouldn't be transhumanist. And
Fucking Lane
after
fans when they
after seeing Snow Crash gargoyles become real in real life,
yes,
was
yes,
like that was like where I had to mentally draw a line of like, okay, I don't want to be those guys.
no, yeah,
I like my
yeah.
silly tech, but that's please stop.
Oh yeah, it's genuine insanity, right? It's genuine, um, all this awful shit that just we're just going full steam ahead anyway. And but these people in power, right, with lots of money, who like lobby politicians and shit, who are just worship. th- You know, people always say they worship technology, but I think really what they're worshiping is the serpent. They worship the basilisk. Like
Yeah,
they just coom at the idea of this like AI overlord, they're like techno dystopia, right? Like they just
yeah,
fucking love that shit. Fucking like Mark Zuckerberg fucking read Snow Crash and was like, "Oh, this thing that like clearly like the author is like this man, this would fucking suck if this actually happened. Let's make it real, you know." All the fucking dumbass Lane fans who watch a show that's literally like, "Hey, transhumanism is bad and merging the wired with reality would be like the worst possible outcome like ever." And they just go, "Wow, that's so cool. We should do that."
yeah, yeah. It's like, oh my god,
God,
everybody
God
love
damn.
Lane. It's like, no, you're not supposed to be doing that. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. Man, fucking. So yeah, people just. That's what, because so that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's just. I mean, the main problem is these like rich fucks, right? These like
Hmm.
giga rich, but it's also like people on the ground who are also like just normal, well, normal, quote unquote, just everyday people who are also,
Average
serpent cultists.
consumer.
Yeah, yeah. Being a consumer is some like serious serpent cult action, dude. Like that's real. Um, so yeah, don't
Don't fall
don't be a
for it.
serpent cult. Yeah, don't become a member of the cult of Boitata. The flaming serpent will not. The knowledge it brings is a curse, and it will kill us all. I think this is what I'm getting at with the whole cult of Boitata. Why the flame, the fire aspect is so important, right? Because
Hmm.
it's the whole knowledge, it's the gnosis, right?
Yeah,
It's it's that whole aspect of things, is people being kind of drawn in by the knowledge, by the kind of promise of a brighter future. But like that's not the case. Look around you. Shit sucks, dog.
yeah,
None of this shit has made anything better. I mean, materially maybe, but like my hot take is that does that really matter? Like genuinely, like
yeah.
material, like sure things are better materially, but like and even then they're also kind of they started getting worse in the past few years. So much for that. But fucking, I mean, just eh, I'll say it like this: in a world where things weren't good materially, people didn't kill themselves anywhere near as much as now.
Hmm. Yeah,
So it's clear we don't just need to be nourished materially. We need to be nourished, spiritually, metaphysically. Because if we're not, we'll just fucking kill ourselves. Like everyone is these days, basically. Fucking deaths of despair they call them now. Drink yourself to death or whatever the fuck. Like that's
yes. Some
such
sort
a
of
common.
escape that some substance or just not doing anything. Also, the
Yeah,
just sit and game and start heart problems.
yeah. So even if you don't kill yourself, you kind of just kill yourself slowly.
Yeah, you
Rot
just
away.
degrade physically.
That's what's happening with a lot of people these days. And that's just tragic. And it's because we're not getting what we really need. We may be getting what we need physically, but not metaphysically, not
Hmm.
spiritually, not anything else like that. And that's just as deadly for us as like it's spiritual starvation.
Yeah. Erosion of the soul.
Yeah, yeah, fucking The Abolition of Man. Go read that if you haven't. It's a great fucking read. He was so real and like 100 years ahead of his fucking time for that one. Um, but yeah, Serpent Bad.
Yes.
Serpent
Simple,
Bad,
simple as.
Serpent Bad, and Punch a Serpent Cultist.
Yes.
We
Yes,
need, we need to
exactly.
make a we need to make a badge a patch of that, by the way. And one day if we have enough people who care, we should sell it on the official Schizopunk
Ah,
Twitter.
yes. Schizopunk
punch
merchandise.
punch a Serpent Cultist today.
Nah, doesn't need
Beat
to
the
be
shit out.
a badge. No, that needs to be like a jacket or a shirt,
Ooh, ooh,
like
yes.
full on.
That I agree. I agree. Actually, that'd be hard. That'd go hard as fuck. you should. You should. Any funders out there who want to fund the Punch a Serpent Cultist jacket, please hit us up. Please let us know.
Yes.
Should actually probably fill out the little the little spot on our website where I have the contact us email and it's just nothing.
Ah, yes, that could be something to do.
Yeah,
Mm,
but
please.
um, is that all we got?
I
For,
honestly, I think so. We've kind of, you know, we've stated the message. Kill serpent
yeah,
cultists, behead serpent cultists.
yeah, real, yes. Kick serpent cultist babies.
Uh,
Feed serpent cultist to alligators.
yeah.
Chop in half with a katana. Uh, so on and so forth. Um,
Uh, yeah.
And I guess we could have gone into more like serpent cult, serpent imagery, and cultish kind of serpent worship stuff, in the historical
Mm.
record. Um,
You know, we've done the
we,
highlights
we,
of the
we've
bigger
we've
ones,
done a we've done a few, yeah,
and we just know, like you just snakes are been around. It's been a
yeah,
thing. Uh,
yeah.
monkey
This is
snake
more
war
about
across time.
yes, exactly, yeah, exactly. The demonic serpent time war. That's
Yes. Yeah, I gotta add some things to our original take of it from the SMT video.
yeah. We're yeah. This is evolving. It's an evolving thing, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, it was we had the demonic time war through cyberspace, but it's like, oh, we gotta, yes, throw a serpent in there. It's all
Now
good.
it's real.
That's real.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we mainly wanted to do something more. I mean, if you've listened to Layer One, you know that we kind of briefly touch upon the facts and the history information. Um, and we mostly get into the kind of the schizo meat, right?
Yeah,
Because
taps the
I think that's what
schizopunk media sign.
exactly that's because I think that's what really matters. That's what this is all about, right? Is we could tell you about like Nagas and fucking like Mamawadas and fucking Australian rainbow serpent and all that shit. But what really matters is that actually we are in a simulation demonic time war with a AI demon from beyond our reality.
Yes, with
I
all
think
the
that's where we're
other
gonna end
stuff, with
it.
all the other stuff mixed in. But yeah, no, that's a perfect spot to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we're schizopunk media.
Yes. Well,
So
this has been Layer One.
keep up the fight against the serpent.
Yes, and
Peace
don't
out.
become a gargoyle. Goodbye.
Yes, real.